Oh, I'm just dying in your arms tonight. Hello, and welcome to the next exciting episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal Cinema Theater for now until they close. Hopefully they don't, but it looks like they will. And then we talk about the movie from the parking lot in Matt's Xterra. I am Todd Domer.
I'm Matt Malloy. Yes, we are enjoying what may be our last film at the Regal Cinema Theater.
Boo, movie companies for not releasing their movies. Boo!
Right. We heard the news late last night that perhaps Regal is shutting down all of its USA theaters until next year, which sucks because it's October.
Yes.
So, but we will overcome. We will work through this problem. Your podcast will not go away. We're here for you. If we have to watch old reruns of movies on PBS, that's what we'll do, and we'll podcast about it. So, the movie at hand. We saw a movie. It is called The Broken Hearts Gallery.
Yes.
Yes. This movie has no one famous in it really, except for Bernadette Peters is in it as a sort of side character.
Which one's Bernadette Peters?
She's the gallery owner.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you recognize where she's from.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
I thought that was going to be a good revelation. Really? Where is she from, Matt? Because it's important to you.
Well, she's been in a number of films, but
Sure.
notably The Jerk,
Yes.
starring Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a few years ago, but
Yeah.
anyway.
There's been some other stuff that some of these other people have done.
Okay.
The main woman, who I can't remember her name,
Okay.
was in the movie Blockers,
Okay.
which came out a couple of years ago. I don't know much else of what she's been in. And then the main guy, who I also can't remember his name because they're just not that famous, is in Stranger Things. And he was also in the Power Rangers remake movie. He was the Red Ranger. So
Who was he in Stranger Things?
he's the older brother of Maxine, I think her name is, the red-haired.
Oh, right. Okay.
The guy who looks in his 20s but played a high school student.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real
the lifeguard
angry guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In season 3, if you watch season 3, he was a lifeguard.
Yes.
So
I did watch season 3.
yes, those people were in it. I'll let Matt do the intro, and I'll look up their names, so at least we can mention their names.
Yes, we should mention their names. I have a hard time remembering the character names or the actual because a lot of them have long names
Yes.
and non-American names, which
Yes.
I guess I'm racist for having trouble with longer non-American names, but
So
that's
racist. So racist.
that's how my mind works, I guess. So what's this movie about? Well, this is a little old romantic comedy type
Yes.
thing. And I would say it's more romantic than comedy, but there's plenty of comedic moments in it.
Sure.
So the main character,
Lucy.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
She is she collects things from her relationships, failed relationships, to the point where she has two roommates who are also characters in the story. And
Amanda and Nadine.
yes, Amanda and Nadine. They call her like a hoarder because her room is just full of stuff from past relationships that it seems like she's kind of holding on to forever. So Lucy is working at kind of her dream job. Well, she's working in a place that's her dream job. She's working at a gallery in New York City where she's an assistant curator there. It's all sort of art stuff there. But she, really respects that place and wants to work there. And she ends up dating someone who works there.
Max.
Yeah. And then they break up and she gets fired through a series of somewhat comedic events. And yeah, so she ends up through another series of serendipitous and comedic events meeting up with another guy, Nick, around the same time, who's working on opening up a hotel. And anyway, they sort of fall into a sort of a business relationship where she ends up starting this. She has this idea for an art exhibit, an art gallery, where people can donate sort of things that they've held on to of their past relationships. And so she does that, and she hosts this at the half-finished hotel that's Nick is building.
Yes.
And so through a series of self-discovery and blah, 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 lots of stuff happens, and everyone in the end becomes successful, and all relationships work out. So,
yeah.
As they do in romantic comedies.
Sure.
After a series of "you lied to me," and I'm going to tell you the truth now, and I'm going to forgive you.
Sure.
Which is a common theme in sitcoms, romantic comedies.
Very common.
Yes. So that's sort of the setup there. What did you think of this, Todd?
Well, I think the fact that we could not remember the main characters' names speaks pretty poorly of how the movie impacted us.
That's true.
I also regret telling you that I was going to say the actors and actresses' names because they are really hard to...
Yeah.
I'll start with Nick, the old Red Ranger here. His name's Darcy Montgomery, so that was pretty easy. Lucy is Geral. And we're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we ran into an issue and didn't want to start the whole thing over because I thought our intro was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I believe we were discussing how to say Lucy's name, which you discovered. Why don't you say it? Because I already forgot what you said.
It's Geraldine Viswanathan, I believe. Viswanathan.
All right.
Geraldine Viswanathan.
If you're listening, Geraldine, we're sorry. Also, I think you should support our podcast.
Yeah.
Todd
will give you $3 for mispronouncing your name.
That's fair. So, yes. How do I feel about this movie? This movie is pretty safe and somewhat nothing special about it. It really is just paint by numbers, romantic comedy. Except for the comedy in this movie is based solely on awkward girl rambling. Like, in awkward moments, people just talk and ramble, and like that's supposed to equal comedic things, and a lot of times I felt it didn't. There are some good one-liners, I will admit, that made me laugh, but I just think comedy is so much more than just rambling, and this movie did not capture comedy very well. I think it did a pretty okay on the romantic side of things. I mean, I don't consider myself a romantic movie buff, but seemed like on that front it was pretty okay. When all the serious, somewhat, oh, you hurt me or I love you conversations need to happen, I felt like they were fine. Again, nothing special about them. They just, if you've seen a romantic movie and then you probably have seen most of what's going to happen in this movie when it comes to the romantic side. I think this movie suffers from new comedy standards, which is as long as you're a kooky girl and you just keep talking, people will start awkwardly laughing. I don't know. It reminds me of any movie that's a romantic movie that Zooey Deschanel is in, of just like so kooky, just keep talking, people are bound to laugh. And that's just not my, I don't think that's funny. It's not gonna get many chuckles out of me. So I think that's the biggest gripe I have with it. Acting wise, I don't think there were any acting powerhouses in this movie. Like, I think people did a fine job, but you know, you think when you think of romantic movies or even romantic comedies, or you know, you think of like The Notebook or something, some pretty powerful performances in that movie. Even if you don't like the movie, you can't deny that. This didn't have those performances, not from Stranger Things, Red Ranger, or from the movie Blockers, which is the other thing I recognize the other woman in. So all the supporting cast, again, pretty average, nothing special. She's got kooky friends. They all live in this incredible apartment together that they probably couldn't afford. And one thing that definitely bothered me is that, you know, in the first kind of opening scenes, you find out that this woman, Lucy, lost her job. And then the rest of the movie, she does not have a job. But yet she can still function in life and do all the things she wants to do and spend money and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, there's not a whole lot of this film that I would say is grounded in reality. That might be my problem with it. Like, so I don't know. I don't want to keep crapping on it because it wasn't the worst movie I've seen, but there aren't many good things to say about it either. So I'll just end it there. I'm also frustrated that the recorder stopped working. So I think it just really messed me up. Matt?
Yeah. Well, on that note, so I will say we definitely weren't the target audience for this film.
Absolutely.
This was a film for the ladies, primarily.
Younger ladies, I would say that. Like,
yeah. I
mean, I'm not saying like kids, but, you know, probably mid-20s.
Mid-20s is, I think, the age of the main character.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think especially if you live in New York, maybe in an amazing apartment that you can't really afford, or a crappy one, maybe if you're a lady in your mid-20s, this movie is directed directly at you, which isn't a bad play considering how many people live in New York.
I don't know if these versions of New York that you see in these movies exist. Like, I mean, anyone who I've ever known who has lived in New York, they don't talk about amazing apartments that are so kooky and great and you don't need a lot of money to stay in them. I hear rent's crazy. I got to rent a room for someone and I don't have much space. Like, that's
right.
like, but this is not the first movie that's a culprit of this, but it's just like, you create this, like, it paints New York in such a kind of magical way, and I just don't know if that New York really exists anymore. I think it did at some point. I just don't know if it exists anymore. So
that's fair. Well, so that being said, I think making a big connection with the movie was going to be a hard sell from the start. I will say I felt like the beginning parts of the movie, the kookiness was there, and I thought helped a bit. I thought it was decent at sort of bringing me in and helping me care about Lucy. And then, but I thought, and this is something I feel like is fairly new, there was like this kind of undertone of like, I really have some mental health issues, and that's okay. Like, people have mental health issues. I feel like that's a new thing for movies to kind of even just touch on the fact that people are a little broken. Like, everyone's a little broken.
sure.
And I think that's a positive. That wasn't very overt in this movie, but I felt like it was there as an undertone. Like, hey, she has some problems, and it's okay.
Sure. Except for the the kind of message, it's like almost like they open the door a little bit, but then that's it, because it's like, oh well, I'm gonna get over my mental health issue by unrealistic standards of never actually working on myself. Just like,
Right.
it just happens.
Right.
I've got it.
Right. So some points for acceptance of mental health, but less points for accurately dealing with mental health issues. Put it that way. As far as the beginning of the movie, I thought the movie was too long. I thought the build up to kind of the romantic side of things taking over was too much. There was too much that happened. Like there was too many odd side stories that got thrown in there. I don't know. And then I thought when it got to the romantic part, I thought it was pretty solid for that. You're right, Todd. No crazy good acting performances here, but the romantic setup was decent, and I think that I really enjoyed the kind of big reveal, follow through, grand gesture at the end.
Sure.
I liked that part. So, was this a great movie? No, it wasn't a great movie. Was it an average movie? Probably. Did I like it a little bit more than average? I think I did, but I wouldn't put it in the good category.
Sure.
I would put it in the high average category, I guess. So who should see it? Well, I'd say it's a movie for youngish ladies. Youngish? What does that mean? I'd say it's a movie for ladies. We'll just leave it at that.
There you go.
I don't think you have to be young to enjoy this movie. After all, I'm a middle-aged man and I enjoyed the movie. So that's where I'll leave it. If you're in that category, take a gander at this film. No need to see it in theaters unless you want to support the theater industry, which is thinking of shutting down. So
yeah,
go for it.
How far our tune has changed since we saw Tenet, where we were just like, probably don't see this in theaters or whatever. And now we're gonna see any movie and be like, you should probably see it in theaters because the business relies on you.
Yeah.
All right. So, how many Monopoly piece thimbles would you give this movie?
Yes.
The thimble plays a substantial part in the movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty big symbol after a revealing point in the movie. I'm gonna go with 2.8 thimbles out of 5. Mm-hmm. So slightly above the average range in the high average, as I said.
Seems to coincide with what you were talking about.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna go 2.
Okay.
I do like the woman who played Lucy. Like I liked her in Blockers, which is maybe I've seen her in something else, but it's just the movie that when I did a quick look in the old IMDb that I could find. And I think there's something there with her as an actor or an actress. I just think time will make her a little bit better. Like I think she's a rising star. So I thought, she really, the movie was on her back to carry. And I think she did a somewhat okay job, which is hard when you're a young actor coming up.
Right.
So I want to give her some props on that. But, the stuff that brings it down to a 2 in my eyes is not her fault. It's just some of the writing, the pacing, just this idea that, kooky girls rambling is the new comedic norm, which I blame the movie Bridesmaids for, which I think made that pretty famous. And
it's in theaters.
So pay $5 and be like, I don't know what Todd's talking about. Well, pay the $5 to go see the movie, and you're good to go.
There you go.
So yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Okay, so that's gonna wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we saw The Broken Hearts Gallery in theaters, and we gave it an average rating of 2.4, which is slightly below average.
Only like a 0.1 slice.
Only 0.1.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. I'd say you should see it more than Todd should, but that's how averages work. And but yeah, thanks for listening to our podcast. please continue to do so in the future.
Da 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 da
Da-da.
da da da.
Da-da-da.